Hey, what's good, everybody? Welcome to the Combat Lounge. It's your host, Phil Robinson, with me riding shotgun, as always, is my two favorite guys. We got Two Belt Tony, and we got Cade Morehouse for that ass tonight. And we got a little special show. We're going to be breaking down Sterling, holding up the lightweight division and getting into what's next for Jake Paul and MVP Promotions. All that and more coming to you live on the Combat Lounge.
Now fires back. Oh, there's Fury with the right hand. Wilder's hurt. Wilder's hurt. He wobbled the almost fell over to the ropes. He is close to go out.
And welcome back. Cade, Tone, Aljamain Sterling, the lightweight division. There's been a lot of talk recently about him taking up to a year off or taking another 6 months off, only fighting, once or twice in the year. What's up with that, Cade?
This man thinks he runs the UFC. This man won the belt, took a year off with a neck injury, and comes back, wins a fight against Petr Yan, states his case as being the champion of the bantamweight division, and then he comes and he has a fight against TJ Dillashaw, an injured TJ Dillashaw, does what he has to do, and then says, I want to take another 6-7 months off and fight mid next year against O'Malley or Cejudo or whoever his opponent's going to be. So the bantamweight division isn't very happy. They're talking about doing an interim belt between Marlon Chito Vera and Sean O'Malley. I don't know where Cejudo's going to fit into that mix, but yeah, that's what the UFC is talking about. Well, that's what the fighters are talking about. And usually when you get enough fighters talking about it, that's what's eventually going to happen. We'll see where it goes. I don't think it's right of Aljamain Sterling. He says that 5-round training camps are hard. I can't say different because I've never done one, but there's champions fighting 3 times a year. Should be fighting at least 2-3 times a year for him as champion, a newer champion at that. If this was like a guy like Kamaru Usman who decided, you know what, I fought 3 times last year, I only want to fight once or twice this year, you can live with that. But this guy took a year off, came back, fought again, then fought Dillashaw, made light work of what he had in front of him with Dillashaw, and now he wants to take 7 more months off.
My thoughts on it is this: when when you're in the fight game, it's all about promotion. It's all about being there. It's all about constantly being in front of the camera, representing the brand, representing the company, representing the division, representing your own personal brand. And you can't really do any of that when you're sitting at home taking it easy. Now, if he had a neck injury like he did and was out for the year, then that's one thing. And you should have an interim title because he's out with a neck injury and you don't know when he's coming back. But when you just get done mopping the floor with an injured TJ Dillashaw, I mean, to the point where you don't even get you don't take any damage at all whatsoever. The fuck are you waiting for? So if you're going to hold out and not fight for 7 months, you don't deserve to have the belt.
Yeah, I mean he he does deserve it. He was getting destroyed in his fight against he was getting destroyed in his fight against Piotr Jan the first time they fought. He got the belt off an illegal knee. Decided after that fight, after he got the belt via DQ, he was gonna take the year off because he had to get neck surgery. Came back, had a good fight with Piotr Jan again, won the fight by decision. Then he came back, beat up Dillashaw in 2 rounds, under 2 rounds, and I could see taking 3-4 months off to let your body recover, because obviously no one's going to ask you to drop down to 135 and then come back in 2 months and have another 10-week training camp and make 135 again. It's a hard thing to do for your body, I'm sure. But to take 6, 7, to not want to fight till the middle of next year, I mean, we're talking 7 months from now, 8 months.
That's a good question, because in boxing, there are interim titles that kind of cover, I feel like, situations like that where if a fighter's injured while he's champion and he can't compete, he still keeps his spot. However, somebody has to, that title still has to be defended. That title has to still be in circulation. Does UFC not have anything like that in place?
So they do. It depends on the situation. So, like, for instance, so it was weird because the year that Aljo took off, they didn't do like an interim belt for the bantamweight division. But now that he's talking about taking or not fighting till mid next year, now they're starting to talk about doing an interim title fight for the division, which is weird. But
it could be good, because what happens is, he's still the champ, and then when he comes back, him and the current champion that's holding that belt, they got to go at it to decide who is the real big dog.
So UFC fighters are much different from boxers. Their egos are just different. So a lot of times, sometimes they don't do these interim title fights because the fighters don't like it, because they're looked at as the fake champion in a sense, and they get a belt. If you win the interim belt, you get the belt, and the champion still has his belt. So when then they make it as this champion versus champion fight, and they don't like that because they feel like they want the real belt. So sometimes that's why they don't do it. It holds it up, but
But then that holds up your career, though. It's kind of like, all right, I'm gonna sit here and just fight so and so and so and so and so and so until the champ comes back and get my title shot. But what if you lose? In between that time, and you lose your spot. And then you're like, damn, I should have just went ahead and been the fighting champion until the champion.
So I don't think that's ever happened in UFC history where the interim belt's been defended. I think it's always been they'll book an interim fight just to have something in between for that division. And then after that interim fight, that interim champion will just ultimately wait until the champion's ready to fight. I don't think interim belt's ever been defended that I can remember. So, yeah, I mean, most average fighters only fight 2-3 times a year anyway. So that's one fight. and then they just wait till the end of the year, and hopefully the champion's ready. That's usually how it goes. But
would he have a tune-up before that, or he'd just go fight the champ?
nah, he'll just go fight the champ.
He'll fight the champ. The interim fight is the tune-up.
So,
but then if he sits for like almost a year, then it's like, well, I guess the champ did the official champ did sit that long too. So I guess it's even. Yeah, that is even.
Yeah, I mean, usually what happens is they'll fight the interim belt, and then they'll hold that. Usually if they book an interim championship fight, they'll see when the other guy's expected to be ready, and then they'll book that fight, 5-6 months before that guy's supposed to be ready, so that in 5 or 6 months they can fight. So it usually always works out. They plan it accordingly, but yeah, that's usually how it works out. So as for this bantamweight division, though, I don't know who's fighting for what. They're talking about Sean O'Malley and Chito Vera, and then Henry Cejudo's coming out of the woodworks trying to throw himself in this division where he hasn't even fought in 2.5, 3 years. And if he does that, Dana's probably going to grant it to him, because when he retired as the champion. So he's probably going to get whatever he wants when he comes back, if I had to say. But, we'll have to see. Maybe Aljo just decides to fight. I don't know. I really don't know what this guy is. He's a different character. So it's kind of like it's wait and see what he's going to do. I'm sure they'll have it figured out in the next month or two, because they're going to want to have a direction for this division by the end of the year.
Well, not only that, but you can't plan a card if you don't know what you're doing with your champion. And and we're gonna switch a little bit of gears, then move forward instead of looking backwards. And as of the last 24 hours, I believe word has come out, talks about Sterling and Sean O'Malley linking up for a title shot. Now, I didn't say when, and according to what you've said, they may be doing it in 6 months. They might do it in a year, at the end of the year. Not the end of this year, but maybe towards September or something of next year.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see if that plays out. I think Sean O'Malley's definitely in line next if he wants it. I'm almost positive if he wants the title shot, he's going to get it. But he had a hard fight against Jan too, so I mean maybe he needs the time until middle of next year. I don't really know. But if I was Sterling personally, I would think that my camp would favor the fight against Sean as opposed to the fight against Cejudo, because Cejudo's wrestling matches Sterling's wrestling, and I think Cejudo's a better striker overall too. So
Then O'Malley?
No. Then Sterling. So. Whereas Sean, his ground game might not be well enough to stop the wrestling of Aljamain, and Aljamain's really good at controlling people when he gets you where he wants you. So that fight probably is more favorable to him. So that's probably why his camp's like, wait a second, that fight's offered. I'd probably take that one over the Cejudo fight. But I don't know.
No, that's kind of what I was thinking. I think that in the grand scheme of things, he has to fight O'Malley, because I believe O'Malley is now the number one contender. So that is naturally his next fight, especially with Dillashaw coming in and jumping the line and going straight to the top. Now, that's not fair to all the other. Even if when Cejudo comes back being a former champ, I mean, if you're some of the other guys in this division, your champion's only fighting once a year, and then you got guys coming out of retirement, getting tired, or heading into retirement, some on both sides of the retirement coin, getting title shots ahead of you. What does that do for your career? That means now you're wasting your prime waiting for the champion to actually decide that maybe he'll fight you now, and when you could have fought for a belt, you now are waiting 2-3 years for no reason. And to me that's just criminal. But the fight with O'Malley and Sterling is what needs to happen. It needs to happen relatively soon, and I'd like to see it. O'Malley's earned this title shot. I was pleasantly surprised by what I saw in the matchup against Yan, but you said this was Yan. Yeah, Sterling beat Yan as well, so now we're going to get to see whose skills are the sharpest.
Yeah, and Sterling. The thing about him is that he knows in his mind that the favorable matchup is O'Malley. He knows it. His camp knows it. So if they can avoid Cejudo at all costs, they're probably gonna do it or push it off as long as they can. So, there's a lot of guys in this bantamweight division that have made cases for title shots. Sandhagen, Marlon Vera is on a win streak, and now Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley's only loss on his record is to Marlon Cheeto Vera. Yeah, that's his only loss on his record. And he had hurt I think it was his knee or his ankle in that fight. I'd have to go back and look, but he got hurt, and then he got TKO'd. And so there's a lot of people that want to see that fight. That's why if there is an interim title fight, the UFC is probably going to use that to their advantage and try to maybe book Sean and Cheeto, I would assume, if Cejudo's not in the mix. But if Cejudo is in the mix, then, that'll be interesting to see where they go. But the fight to make, in my opinion, is Sterling and Sean.
You got any thoughts on that, Tone, before we wrap this up?
I was going to say, well, really, you brought that back with the interim thing, and that's why I kind of asked that because it's kind of damning to have guys on this trajectory, and it kind of stop because somebody can't compete. Well, I got more questions than answers for this, and this is not one of those type of shows, so we're going to keep it pushing. But I will phrase it this way: I'm wondering stylistically why O'Malley and is like not. It's a better fight for. Lost brain fart. But it's a bad fight for O'Malley. Yeah, it's a bad. Why would it be a bad fight for O'Malley?
Because his ground game isn't the best, and Aljamain Sterling is a phenomenal wrestler, and so is Henry Cejudo. If it went to striking, that's where Sean O'Malley is at his best. So it comes down to one of those style makes fights where you got the Philly Shell versus Lennox Lewis. Which one is gonna pan out?
So that's what I was thinking, and I'm thinking, does he have to be great? Does he have to be great at the ground game to at least get back to striking?
What he'd have to do is he's gonna need to work on is sprawling and keeping distance, closing distance, and then opening it back up again quickly. If he's
I think he's got that from that Yan fight.
Yeah,
I think he learned that from the Yan fight a little bit.
Yeah, but
Sterling is a different beast.
Absolutely masterclass Yan on the ground. So
yeah,
like I said, we can definitely talk about it more, and I can explain it to you a little better. But it really comes down to that. O'Malley's key to that fight is to keep putting the pressure on Sterling if they were to fight, and force Sterling to shoot instead of waiting for him to shoot. And hope it goes his way. But yeah, that's the more favorable matchup for Sterling.
I like that
by far and away, because even with Cejudo versus Sterling, it's a wash on the mat, and Cejudo's striking is better than Sterling's.
Yep. That's all I got on that.
And that's all I got to say about that.
All right, man. So let's have a little fun with. No, I'm gonna take this guy serious. You want to talk? We're going to talk a little bit about Jake Paul and what's coming up for him. Because I have some thoughts on Mr. Paul. I think it's about time he actually, is respected as the amateur he is. This fight with this kickboxer, man. And I didn't know much about him, and I took a look at let's keep it all the way 100. Took a look at him today, and I instantly knew what was going to be his problem, his downfall. And the downfall will be that his combinations include his feet, and they include kicking, and it's so instinctual that I think it would be very tough for him in the heat of the battle to not have these lapses in his attacks, because he's thinking, I can't, he's thinking, oh, I usually when I throw this punch and this punch, I follow up with a head kick or a kick to the body or something like that. And I think those moments that he stalls, it's going to catch up.
Yeah, but you can say the same thing about the MMA fighters that come in to fight him. I mean, their instincts are just completely different from what they're doing with him, straight boxing. It might be a tough fight for him. I personally don't think it's any tougher than what Anderson had for him.
It'd be tougher. I think he'll. One thing I noticed is that he's very aggressive. He is very aggressive. If Jake tries to match that head on early in the rounds, he could hit the floor. He could hit the floor. However, I think that if Jake kind of just weathers the storm, lets him kind of gas out, catch him in the later rounds, that'd be the best time for him.
Yeah. I gotta say too is
what's up, Hunter?
Jake, what's up, bro? Jake Paul's team is very good at getting him fights that favor him somewhere. They're not stupid, and they know that if he was to lose to one of these guys, that it's not over for him, but his stock drops tremendously.
It shouldn't be. That's what's crazy, and I'm gonna address that with the way he's judged as a fighter with 5 fights under his belt. And people say, well, he needs to fight a real boxer, this and this, And the only part that I will hold against him is actually two: the size and the age thing. That does kind of work to his favor, but at the same time, and not many of us watch the amateurs, but is the amateurs, would an amateur in your first 5 fights have the skill set or be better than, well, they'll be better than Nate Robinson, I'll give him that, but let's say Woodley and Woodley and Silva.
No.
There's one more.
Askren.
Yeah. Are they that much? Would in your first 3 fights of amateurs, would you really face better opposition? Probably not.
Probably better than Askren in terms of boxing, because Askren, even in his mixed martial arts career, never had great hands. He was a wrestler, dominant wrestler at that point.
Right.
But, Woodley had hands. Anderson Silva definitely had hands. I don't think Tate's a harder fight for Jake than than Anderson. Anderson had four or five professional boxing.
Yeah, 4. He's 3-1.
Yeah, before he took the fight against Jake Paul, so he kind of already had a little bit of experience there. Tate has experience, but kickboxing versus just regular boxing to me is just different.
Yeah.
But, I think maybe if anything it's the same type of fight, maybe, but maybe a little different. But I think Jake would take that.
Yeah, people are really out here like saying, well, Jake should fight. Gosh, man, I hate that. One of the top cruiserweights. And it's like, is that really realistic? To me, I feel like people just want to set him up to fail in a way that nobody with 5 fights under their 5, 6 fights under the belt.
I feel like Jake would get a lot. I feel like Jake would get a lot more respect if he beat a guy like Tommy Fury. If he beat someone that boxed, like was a full-time boxer, maybe he would get more respect out of people. But to be honest with you, like I was telling Phil, I respect what he's doing. You can hate him or love him or whatever, but he's making money off.
He's taking this shit serious,
promoting himself better than anyone else can even promote him other than himself. He's his own best promoter. He's getting better every time he steps into the ring. He's better. I mean, hate him, love him, whatever. He's in there fighting, and he's fighting legit dudes that maybe aren't legit boxers, but they had fighting experience before he did.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, again, like, we would have to really know the amateur circuit to have an opinion about this, but the amateur circuit is just not. It's not. Especially in your first 5, you're just not going to see. There's a good chance you might not see that greatness. You're not going to run into greatness. You know what I mean? And when you said people will respect it, this fight game. I think UFC fans are more well adjusted than boxing fans. For the most part, they're not a high class of beings as far as giving people respect. And I say that I say that affectionately in a way, but fighters, they're protecting the he's not fighting this person, they're not fighting that person. As soon as they fight him, win or lose, you're gonna find some way to take it away from that person.
You out here talking about the casuals. That's what you talking about. You ain't talking.
Oh man, no. This has got up to blue check level. This has got up to blue check level, where people are really picking sides to the point, and then once you pick a side, they gotta keep going. They gotta keep going with the narrative and keep, and so if Jake Paul fights Lil Fury and if he loses, people are gonna be like, see, he ain't this, he ain't that, he ain't this, he ain't that, and then the boxing game, your reputation gets you paid. Your reputation gets you paid, and people cannot wait for him to lose so that they can feel better. It's because they are tired of seeing this man happy. They're tired of seeing this man happy. And, nobody asked Floyd, nobody asked Delo, nobody asked none of these legends to at their 5th, 6th fight to jump up to a certain level of talent. I would like everybody to kind of just take what it is, pump the brakes. Look, he is putting the work in, but you put him in with a top 12 fighter, and you go, see, well, what do you expect?
I think he should keep doing what he's doing.
And just level up. Just keep leveling up.
10, 12 fights. I don't see a problem with it. I think his next big money fight is, get off all this Andrew Tate stuff, man. You and Nate Diaz been talking. Let's see what. Let's stop the talking. Let's get the scrapping.
I don't want to see. I don't, man. You sure you want to see that? You sure?
Hey, it's a money fight. It's two names, and hey, man, let's get to work. Nate's a tough dude, and Jake's a tough dude, and I'm for it. Let's see it.
Let's see it. All right. Well, that's what we got for y'all on the Combat Lounge for this particular episode. Stay tuned for the next one, and we'll drop more of that knowledge for you. Get into some in-depth shit, and actually we'll be doing something for 281 on Saturday.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, I got an announcement. I will have an announcement about a fight date for myself.
Getting back to the square circle.
Coming soon in April.
Okay.
And we'll get into that as I finish up paperwork that I need to finish up and everything like that. So yeah, not only do we talk about it, we are about it.
There it is.
Now fires back. Oh, there's Fury with the right hand.